Hello, welcome to Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. This is the Age of Sigmar Stat Center, where I, along with the Twitch chat, look through all the event results that have happened over the weekend. A special thank you to Warhammer Rob, different Rob to me, better Rob, for sending me all the info. And in a few weeks, we'll be updating the stats for what we've seen from the past two massive events, LVO last week, and then this week we'll be covering CanCon, or Court of Glory at CanCon, with 180 players playing it in Australia, which is great. I would like to also shout out to Norway, before we get into this any deeper, for winning the Nordic Masters, which is a team event between Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Finland. So congratulations to Norway, pipping it, I think, by 1 point in what is a devastatingly tough field up against the current World Team Championship champions, Denmark. Also, Sweden did particularly well, and they even pipped around against Denmark. So in my personal opinion, going into the World Team Championships in a few months, I would be looking at Sweden being a hot pick for the title. Obviously, Norway as well. So Denmark, the returning champions. I think a lot of countries around the world are really worried. The Nordic Masters, probably one of the greatest concentrations of Age of Sigmar players in a while. So what a great event. So shout out to Norway. That should be cool. Anyway, we're going to be looking at 4 events across this weekend. That event also happened as well, the one I just talked about, the Nordic Masters. And we have got 234 players playing across 3 different countries. As always, unfortunately, we're waiting for the battle scroll update, but they have said that the 40k one is on Thursday, the Thursday coming. So that does mean, if I've done my maths right, that the battle scroll update for Age of Sigmar should be landing on the 8th of February. So be interested to see what that looks like, and I'm looking forward to it. If you've got games or events in the future you want to let us know, please do let us know. And again, if you intend any events and you want to post a bunch of pictures to our Discord or anything like that so we can see them ahead of time, that'd be cool. Anyway, let's go look at the event results. Thank you to everyone on the Wargamer Patreon for supporting me so that I can make this content. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do it. Let's get on to it. The first event we're going to look at is an incredibly famous one. It's Court of Glory 2024. This is what you would sometimes be referred to as CanCon, because it's held at the CanCon convention in Canberra in Australia, which is great. Previously, last year, I think we were up to like 250, 300 players. So I had a bit of a drop-off from this year to last, but you do have to remember the organisers have changed over. Also, CanCon, or Court of Glory, which is at CanCon, is an event where it's ensconced inside of a larger convention, and that larger convention takes a significant portion of the money. So even though the event has been bigger year on year for several years, the organisers have never been able to reconstitute that into, a better environment for their players or more terrain or other stuff like that, etc., which is a real shame. But anyway, we still had 180 players playing at Court of Glory, which is great. Still a massive event that kicked off. Big enough, in fact, that this year they copied or have adopted, that's probably the better way of saying it, they've adopted the process of the top 8 cut that you see in the USA, where obviously all the players compete up until round 5. When round 5 is over, they declare a best overall. Shout out to Sam Morgan for being the best overall. And then they push the other 8 players, or the top 8 players, over into a top cut to battle it out. This was for the best general, but also I think for a golden ticket, which is Games Workshop's pyramid scheme that they run for their World Warhammer Championships, where they steal money from local communities to send people to their paid-for advertising event online that they do in America. So those top eight people were competing. Not all of the people that qualified to be in the top 8 wanted to play in the top 8 because they had to go get planes and other stuff, because Canberra's pretty nondescript town where most people don't live. So, but the 8 people who were playing were Nathan Thompson, Joel Graham, Luca Forrester, Jane Hargreaves, Peter Bates, Dave Kerr, Anthony Quilty, and Zach Rockman. Congratulations to all of those guys. Nathan Thompson, in this elimination bracket of 8 players, Nathan Thompson was able to win the event, beating Joel Graham in the final of this event with his Kharadron Overlords. So, with his Kharadron Overlords, he was running Barak Nar with the Arcanaut Admiral, the Aether Chemist, the Etheric Navigator. And where this list becomes different to lists that we've seen previously for Kharadron Overlords is two lots of 20 Arcanaut Company. Then he had 15 Thunderers, which is very common inside an Ironclad. And then he had a Gunstruck Gun Hauler and a single unit of 3 Engine Riggers. Normally, we will see more Engine Riggers because of the recursion, or the healing at least, they can put into the big boats like the Ironclad or the frigates when they're played. And we very much never see buffed up units of Archanaut Company. So that's a nice little unique thing that has been unique to Nathan's list, which is very, very cool. Love to hear his thoughts on why. Kharadron Overlords right now in the stats, or at least on the TSN stats, are setting it around a 58% win rate and doing really well. But Nathan should be really chuffed. He played a very tough field to get here. He even won a mirror match in the semi-finals, which is awesome. And because you love a mirror match. Like, it's like, oh, there's 2 Kharadron Overlords in the field. Right, let's play each other. Okay, I'm the best. I'm going through to the final. That's a nice little flex. I love that. So well done to Nathan. Joe Graham with his Fresh Eater Courts. This is his old Fresh Eater Courts book. So I won't bother going through the list because obviously the book isn't really relevant anymore. Congratulations to Joel. Then Luke Forrester, also with his Kharadron Overlords. He was running Barak Nar. He had a Brock Grungson, Engine Master with Engine Harness, 3 lots of 10 Archanaut, 9 Engine Riggers, which is much more common for all the healing, as I talked about, a Gun Hauler, and then that Archanaut Frigate. But the key bit here, is that he had Gotrek in his list as well. Gotrek very popular right now because of his ability to sustain on an objective and at least give the Kharadron Overlords player the opportunity to be in 2 places at once. Normally they move to an area, do all their shooting, and then combat's an issue. That's why you see things like Engine Riggers, because they can disembark and do some good fighting. But they are fairly fragile, whereas Gotrek isn't. So it's unsurprising to see him in there. Then we had Jaden Hargreaves with his good old Maggotkin of Nurgle, and this is a classic at this point. Glotkin, Orgots, Demon Spew, Blowbrot Spawn, all in the Befouling Host sub-faction for the extra summoning. Sloppity Bilepiper in the list initially. Oftentimes you'll see Sloppity summoned in as the first summon you get in the Befouling Host, but you decide to put him in the list. Then 3 units of 10 Plague Bearers, which are just meant to hold objectives and countercharge, and then pin units in, thanks to Glotkin's command ability, which I think should be falling out of favor. Nurgle currently sat on a 58% win rate, especially Befouling Host. Very good. Glotkin builds are pushing towards near 60. They're very effective, but with the introduction of Cities of Sigmar and the Command Core stealing a command ability, the Glotkin only be able to do this Blitzkrieg command ability 50% of the time is game-changing, seeing as that's how they're built. A Beast of Nurgle in here as well, some units of Nurglings, very cool list, which might be going out of favour thanks to the Command Core. Peter Bates with his Seraphon, running Starborn Fangs of Sotek. Again, Starborn Fangs of Sotek are over 55% win rate. However, if you're running all lizards, they're below 45%. So while you do look at the Seraphon win rate and you see it below 55, Starborn lists are doing much better. Anyway, Slan Star Master, this is in Fangs of Sotek. Skink Starseer, Lord Croak, Saurus Ashroth Bannerbearer, Skink Star Priest, and the Pontifex Sinestra is in the list as well. So not the Command Core, but instead Cities of Sigmar character Pontifex being allied in. And this is because, as you remember, it's able to do more mortal wounds to enemy heroes, wizards, and priests at the other side of the board, thanks to a prayer. And it's board wide, which obviously keys in so nicely with all of the mortal wounds that you're doing from Croak, you're doing from Comet's Call, and you're doing from the Celestial Call Points, Explosion Bomb, and also the Realm Shaper really stacks that all up. Unit of Saurus Warriors, 2 lots of 10 Skinks, 5 Saurus Guard, and then 2 units, this is cute, 2 units of Allied Vanguard Hunters, as well, so from the Stormcast Eternals. This is quite fun. It gives them some board presence. One of the things that the Seraphon struggle to do is move out from that castle that they build themselves into, where they do all their mortal wound spam. So being able to pop from the sides with these hunters is a fucking cool flex, and I love that. So well done to Peter Bates. Dave Kerr. Now, this is a spicy bit of info. So Dave Kerr running exactly the same Ogre Tribes list as Karsten, the Meat King, over from Canada, if you've been paying attention, and both of them with absolutely the same ogre meat energy, and they both submitted the same list. Carson took it to LVO, got into the top 8 with his Meat Fist army, and then Dave submitting exactly the same list. And now it's important to remember that while Carson has been running that list for a long time, Dave and Carson both submitted their list, one to LVO, one to CanCon, at pretty much the same time. So there's no like referential stuff here, which is good. So I love that. So big meat energy. Anyway, Meat Fist army, a Butcher, a Firebelly, and then a Frostle and Stonehorn. And that's just because a Frostle and Stonehorn is just so quintessential to an Ogre Tribes army, thanks to, of course, the monstrous action, which is just so impactful in the game. It's insanely good. Being uniquely tied to that character means you're always going to bring that character, basically. 2 units of 4 Iron Guts, amazing in combat. Just think of them as chosen. 6 Ogre Gluttons, 20 Noblars, and an Iron Blaster to keep them honest, which is really interesting. In the right situation, Iron Blaster, when it does pop off, is going to do some really solid work, not committing enough points to just some guns that your opponent is going to worry, because shoot to combat, obviously. So then you could just launch everything, do loads of damage, which is cool. Then Anthony Quilty with his Soulblight Gravelords. This is quite a fun list, actually. It's like an MSU list that we saw, so multiple small units that we saw previously. We saw lists like this list previously, but he's broken it up into being more multiple small units, which I think is really fun. He's got the Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon in Legion of Blood, which means he's going to get the +1 attack and no wards and all that other stuff. Then he's got Neferata, and Neferata is obviously going to be able to give the unreadable save out, and then a White King on Skeletal Steed. Then 3 units of Black Knights as core. Black Knights are really good at the minute, very points efficient, actually quite good, really like them. And then 2 units of 5 Blood Knights and the Fellbats. So he's got 3-ish major threats in the Blood Knights, the Vampire Lord as well. Neferata and the Vampire Lord have got loads of sustain thanks to the hunger. You can just summon units back, which is great, really solid list. And then our final list is Zach Rockman running the Big War. So we got Uruk War Chanter twice, Uruk Mega Boss with a Destroyer artifact, Weird Knob Shaman, Wergog Prophet, Swamp Caller Shaman with Potgrot, and then 3 lots of 5 Brutes, and then 20 Shooters, 6 Bolt Boys, 3 Gore Grunters, and then 3 units of 3 Brute Ragers, which for 100 points are really good. And committing them to be 3 units of 3 versus 1 unit of 6 means he's got lots of options for multi-charges, which I think is really nice and really, really fun. It gives him lots of options, a lot more output that you'll see from some of the other Uruk Warkhan's army, so it's just a lot more aggro. He's obviously got the Wergog Prophet for all the mortal wounds, which is how it's built. This will be an interesting list post-Battle Scroll. They got a massive boost Big War from the last Battle Scroll for being able to get 2 free pity battle tactics. So depending on how they go now, it'll be interesting. Anyway, shout out to everyone at CanCon. There are a bunch of other people in the 4-1 bracket. We're not going to go through it because we do have the upcoming Battle Scroll update, at which point I normally look at all these lists to give me some idea of what like the meta is shaping up to be, how things are working, those sorts of things. But instead, I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to shout them out. In the 4-1 bracket, Peter Bates with Seraphon, Nathan Thompson with KO, who ended up winning the event, Dave Kerr with his Ogre Tribes, Jaden Hargreaves with his Maggotkin, Gary Chen with his Sylvaneth, Liam Burnett Blue with his Hedonites, which is good. They didn't have a particularly good win rate at this event. Hedonites, Liam's just a great player, but there's not much to say that's different to like Worlds list you saw last year. Bliss Barbs in the list with the Contorted Epitome. Jake Gunning with Soulblight Gravelords, Mitch Bug with his Iron Jaws, Jason Mushi with his Daughters of Cain, Jet Griffiths with Soulblight Gravelords, Thomas Oliver with Seraphon, Luca with his Kharadron, Bob Van Emmerich with Soulblight, Patrick Neville with his Soulblight, Lau Leafting with his Soulblight, James Hallam with his Blades of Corn, Jonathan Oakley with his Osiarchs, Michael Clark with his Skaven, Ashley Ellis with Stormcast, Sam Green with his Gloomsprites, Phil Kuhn with his Slaves to Darkness, Ryan Chemley with his Soulblights, Christian Bug with his Fleshy Courts, Mark Noge with his Seraphon, Justin Clark with Slaves to Darkness, Jeremy Page with his Soulblights, Stephen Nuttall with his Soulblights, Jacob Strachan with his Lumineth is the first 3-2 he got in there. A lot of Soulblight Gravelords in that 4-1 category. I think it's fair to say we could do more of a breakdown. Some of the armies are missing. Shout out to Gary Chen for hitting up that awesome Sylvaneth 4-1 as well. Anyway, CanCon's a great place. The Australian community is absolutely awesome. They've got some great team events as well. Shout out to Gabe and all the guys up there that have their team event. And so if you get an opportunity to go over there and play, you should. Wonderful community and super fun. The next event we're going to look at is Da Boys, in upstate New York, organized by Joshua Keel. Shout out to Joshua. Thank you for organizing a great event up there for all the wonderful people. We had 30 players battling it out over here, and our winning player was Sean O'Shaughnessy of the Bussy Hammer Club, and he was running a Big War army list. He had got a Wargog Prophet, an Uruk Weird Knob Shaman, a War Chanter, ×2, Gobsprak, 10 R boys and 10 brutes, another 10 R boys, then 6 Ragers, 6 Gore Grunters. So instead of having the more multiple small units that we saw from the previous Big War list that was doing well over in Australia, this is more condensed, those units into greater point sinks, but far more output in the right situation. And maybe that's what you need with these, these Uruk armies. Wargog Prophet does what he does a ton of more wounds. Gobsprak is very good for shutting down magic as well. In fact, excellent. In the meta that we're in now, Gobsprak for 240 points feels amazing. And it's actually really great to see him on the tabletop, even though his utility is pretty weak. I would like to see Age of Sigmar 4 Gobsprak to get a 350-point war scroll and make him much more effective. But he's good in the meta as we are now, which feels very, very good. So shout out to Sean O'Shaughnessy. Should be super chuffed with himself. Well done. Looking at the 4-1s, we've got some great players and some cool lists. We've got 2 OCR Bone Reapers lists being played by Ross McCune and Oscar Savastoyi. I definitely got that wrong. I apologize. And then I did... Oscar Savastio. I think I've got that better. And then Zachary McComb, also in a 4-1. And then Logan Vander Walker with his Slaves to Darkness, Knights of the Empty Throne list. Okay, let's look at the OBR lists. We've got Mortis Praetorians who countercharge, which is very fun, very in vogue at the moment. Arkan, Mortison Ossifector ×2, which is pretty unique as well. You don't normally see that with Dark Acolyte, so the extra spell, the unstoppable spell, and the Gothazar Cartouche for the +1 to wound. Then 20 Mortis Guard, obviously not 20 Mortis Guard. What I meant to say was 3 Mortis Guard. And then a unit of, I think, 4 Morghast Archai, another unit of 4 Morghast Harbingers, and then a unit of Death Riders. So, in my personal opinion, I think both the Archai and the Harbingers might be seeing a points increase in the future because Bone Reaper is still doing so well, but maybe the players are just brilliant. Then you have another Mortis Praetorian lists, and this has got Arcan, Catacross, a Bone Shaper, and an Ossifector as opposed to 2 Bone Shapers, and then a unit of Death Riders, a unit of Archai, and then 2 units of 3 in Mortis Guard. So same thing, bodyguard the characters, just have great armor saves. Will Catacross fall out of favor now because his command ability can be stopped by that 4+ from City Sigmar? Great question. Not really sure, but we might see, if we get a points increase on everything for OCRs as well, they might be starting to fall out of favor, but they're definitely popular as is. Our Big War list, Mega Boss, War Chanter, Weird Knob Shaman, Wargog Prophet, Gobsprak and War Chanter, unit of 10 Gut Rippers, Brutes, unit of 6 Ragers, and then Gore Grunters. So everything I said about the last Big War list applies here. And then our Slaves to Darkness, Knights of the Empty Throne list, Chaos Lord on Karkadrak, then 10 Knights of Nurgle, 6 Varangard of Khorne, 6 Varangard of Khorne. So you've got a unit that's pinning units in with the Chaos Knights, and then you're just going to be slapping them with the Varangard. The whole army is incredibly fast as well, because obviously running charge and all that other stuff. Great little event. I hope everyone... And also, just a shout out to Mike. Mike didn't go 4-1, but he did build himself a display board here, Mike Mullis, with his Meat Fist attack army. Look at the display boards. They're super fun. Look at this. This is cool. If you listen to the podcast, you can't see it. I'm describing a unit of ogres attacking from the inside of a box to the top of the box, which is very, very cool. The next event we are going to look at is the Soupendous Age of Sigmar Souptacular that happened in Nottingham at the TSN Arena, run by a cutie pie, which is me. It was me. I ran the event, which is fun. We had 24 players playing at the event, which was cool. Very popular. Loads of great players playing. And the key takeaway from this event this week was, because we hold an Age of Sigmar event pretty much every month, feel free to check them out on Eventbrite, is that there was free soup. It was leek and potato. Let me know in the comments how you feel about that. And I'd gone to a special like bakery and had a bunch of leek and chive scones made, savory scones, as you can see here, featured on my celebratory Star Trek custom plate, which is fun. Anyway, there were scones and people enjoyed themselves, which is lovely. So it was good. Now, in the 5-0 category, we had one player, Matt Goldsborough, sorry, of Lithician Defenders, but he wasn't playing that. He was playing Seraphon. And he was running just a Draco's Tail, classic Starborn, Slan Star Master, Lord Croak, Ashroth Bannerbearer, Skink Starseer. Then he had, now this is actually kind of interesting, 15 Saurus Guard. Normally you see people go minimum and only have 5, but instead he decided he was going to pump it up and have like an almost unkillable amount of Saurus Guard defending his characters. Then 5 more Saurus Guard for a total of 20, 2 units of 10 Skinks, and then the Pendulum and Malevolent Maelstrom. But the big trick, and he said the winning choice in his list, was the Free Guild Command Core, which he was using as a screen to steal CP, a combat block, all at the same time for 170 points. And if any of them were damaged, the Sawbones in the unit could heal them as well. So just very, very potent. That's a great player as well. I think this is the 11th event he's won at the TSN Arena or something. Please come on, someone beat him. That would be great. But he was able to walk away with the top prize, which was a trophy and a thermos, which is pretty cool, to keep his soup in when he gets at home, which is lovely. Quickly, before we jump into the 4-1s, I'm just going to shout out my guy, Orpheus. Shout out to Orpheus, who played at the event. Orpheus, I think, is 13. I'm going to be pretty certain. I think so. He came along with his dad, which is cool. Apparently, last time he went 4-1 event, I missed him out. And so, Orpheus, I'm very sorry. That's my fault. I know that this means a lot to people, and I sometimes forget that sometimes. So I'm so sorry. Orpheus, you're a superstar. It's amazing when you see people like Orpheus or Natty, and they turn up to an event, and they're only they're teenagers, and they're able to play complicated games of Warhammer at an amazing level with adults all around the room and be brilliant. So a special shout out to Orpheus. You should be really proud of yourself. I don't think I would have been able to do that at your age. So I think you're a special type of human. You should be really proud of yourself. Your dad should be proud of you. So thanks for coming to the event, which is great. Okay, so talking about the 4-1s, we got Phil Sprignall with his Fireslayer's Greyfeared list, and let me tell you, it's so good. Okay, he's running an Auric Rune Master, an Auric Rune Father, and a Battlesmith. Then he's got 2 Grimhold Exiles. Don't forget, this is going to give the army run and charge. Then he has Elenia and Elithor from the Lumineth Realm Lords, which are good. He can turn a piece of terrain into a Wildwood, which means he then can put his characters into cover, which is very, very nice. Then he's got a unit of 5 Auric Hearthguard and then 2 units of 10 Volkite Berserkers. And I know what you're asking yourself, Rob, if he's got such little units like the Volkites, then where the hell are his points being spent? Well, he has 2 Grimwrath Berserkers and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Doomseekers, each of which were individually kit-bashed in his army. He had like 21 units. He also won Best Army at the event for coolest army at the event, which is really great. And then he has the Aether Void Pendulum and the Molten Infernoth in his list as well. So he's just able to do a ton of mortal wounds from the spells and then do a ton of damage in melee from all of those units, which is just very interesting. However, that MSU army really struggled when playing. His only loss was to Matt with his Seraphon list. So a great list, an army really well built, looks lovely, great human being, just great. Phil Sprignall, 11 out of 10 person. Now, talking about another 11 out of 10 person, 24 out of 10, Dominic Stonebridge of the 9 Inch Fails as well, clubmate to Phil. Dom is a hobby hero and a legend. He was playing with his Gloomspike Gits and he's playing King's Gits. He had a Dankhold Trog Boss, Marv the Magic Mushroom, which is Scragrot the Loon King. Then he had a Madcap Shaman, and he had Trug, the Troggoth King, 20 Maloon Clan Stabbers, 2 units of 6 Rock Guts. They had the Gobblepalooza, Loon Smasher Fanatics, and Spore Splatter Fanatics. He had a great game leading up to his only loss against Matt. However, unfortunately, one of the things that happened was he failed a couple of charges and was unable to re-roll those charges because the command core that Matt brought along with him from Cities of Sigmar stole the command ability, so he wasn't able to re-roll the charges, which was telling. Very telling. But a tough matchup in the final round there. Very, very exciting. And Trogs are in a really interesting place. I think that they're very challenging for people to deal with, the Rotguts especially. It's nice to see some stabbers actually screening out, and then if you charge the stabbers, you're going to get hit with some Loon Smasher Fanatics. So you've got some real good punch there. Then you've also got Scragrot for doing long-range attacks as well. But if you don't roll well on Trug, if you don't get the 5-up ward save, then you're in a tough position, which I think is interesting. What's the range of the Command Core Stopper command? It's board wide. It's board wide. Infinite range, which is pretty amazing. And then finally, our last 4-1 is our Cities of Sigmar Greywater Fastness list being played by Birthday Boy Toby. It was his birthday on Sunday. He was playing with a steam tank commander called Leonardo da Vinci, which was a fully 3D printed steam tank army. His Leonardo da Vinci was a bear tank. It was like a tank on top of a bear. It was very cool. We did do some streamed games of it if you want to check it out. Then he had an Alchemite Warforger. He had 2 of those, so he was giving +1 save out to everyone, and also 6s to hit 2 mortal wounds. He had the Pontifex as well for a 5-up ward save. Then he had the Free Guild Command Core, which we've talked about lots. Then he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steam tanks in his list in addition. His command trait, Divine Champion, meant that he was able to issue, or maybe the steam tank commander is able to just issue 2 commands, one to himself and one to another steam tank, meaning he could do double Unleash Hell, which was nice, double +1 to hit, which was also good as well. That was very, very effective. The +1 save on the steam tanks is really good, giving them +1 save, then a 5-up ward save from Zenestra. Then if you want to, of course, you can heal them from the command core, who could do loads of healing. So even if you aren't able to kill one, you could potentially heal loads of wounds back. So very defensive and, unsurprisingly, very tanky. Anyway, I want to thank everyone who was at the event. They were great. Just great environment to play games with those people. That is the wrap up for the stats this week. And while we had some major events like last week, I think a lot of these events are a little bit of a shame that they're happening now, pre the Battle Scroll, before we're seeing what the Battle Scroll does to the balance updates. However, there is obviously still some standouts. Kharadron Overlords, Soulblight Gravelords, Seraphon are all very, very common. And even though we saw Cities of Sigmar spike up last week, and we've seen a couple of instances of them here, there is some real oppressive top-tier armies. Soulblight Gravelords definitely stands out looking at the CanCon results. As an example, Khorne seems to have dropped off a little bit, which I think is interesting, but maybe that's just this week. But it's really exciting to see a bunch of armies, but I would say that the top end of the meta is a little bit thinner and doesn't have quite as many armies in. Like, there wasn't many Lumineth, there definitely wasn't any there was like Sylvaneth, there wasn't many like Nighthaunt as an example. Some of those armies were clearly missing. Idoneth or another list that were missing as well. But we do know Sharks are good, but I do wonder if people are already starting to pivot away. They don't really know what's happening at the moment because of the Battle Scroll update. Command Core, as I've talked about, is affecting many armies. The Blitzkrieg army from Nurgle, definitely. It's also definitely affecting the Ossiarch Bone Reapers armies as well. I think that's the thing as well. No Tzeentch lists is another thing. Missing quite a few of those. Sinesthia's obviously aggressively fallen off, even though we did see it being played at CanCon on a 4-1. Well done to Liam. So I do think there's some armies that are really struggling, and I'd love to see those addressed in the Battle Scroll versus everything else. So I hope you've enjoyed listening to the Stat Center. Thank you very much for watching, obviously. If you do like it, subscribe, leave some comments, share it with your friends, all those other things. I hope you enjoy everything that we do, and I want to thank you as always for listening, and I want to thank the chat for hanging out with me while we look through all the lists. Thanks very much. See you soon.